In this example, we're going to talk about this function called restart, which happens when you press both the key start and the key stop buttons simultaneously. Okay, restart. So how does that work exactly? You can have a style or a rhythm playing as such. And sometimes maybe you have a vocalist or a singer who may not be keeping in time with you, okay? Or you have a particular kind of music where you want to use a 4/4 beat to play, say, a 3/4 pattern, as I'm about to illustrate in this example. And what the restart does is it always takes you back to the first beat. So, for a keyboard player, to be able to play and trigger that at the same time is a very, very daunting task. And so what I have with me, as you look at my feet, is the FS6 pedal. And what I've done is I've gone on to the machine and programmed pedal number 6 to act as the restart. And that's very simple. All you do is you go into menu and you go into foot switches. As you can see on the screen over here, my screen is now showing you the foot switch, and number 6 is programmed for restart and count in, okay? So you can see that over there on the screen. And to program the switches is very simple. Let's say you want to program number 1 for start, stop. You just touch number 1, and it will display that at the center of the screen, and you can have it to be a sustain, sosterno, soft start, arranger A, B. I can assign it to anything. So I'm going to turn the wheel. I'm going to look for start, stop over there, start, stop. And right now, switch number 1 is programmed for start, stop. So if I press switch number 1 like this, it starts, and again, it stops, okay? What that does pretty much is it frees up my hands so I can play without having to reach out and press all these functions. I can program over 109 functions with the foot switch pedal. You just pick a switch, scroll through the different parameters and assign it to whatever you want it to be. You can also program 4 sets of switches, okay? If I go back to the screen right there, you can see set 1, set 2, set 3, and set 4. So I can have in set 1 up to 13 different functions, in set 2 another 13, in set 3, and so on and so forth, okay? So without much ado, let's go back into the demonstration on how to use the restart. So the start stop gives me a start stop function, like you pressing the start stop on the panel itself, and the restart is what I'm about to demonstrate right now. So this is what I would do. And there you have it. So I was actually demonstrating both the start stop, which is over there, and the restart feature for that particular purpose. Again, sometimes you have to be very careful as to when exactly you press the pedal. You may have to press the pedal a little bit, a couple of nanoseconds ahead, just for the machine to know that you want it to stop at a particular point. But that is how that feature works. Now, if you have a vocalist who cannot keep to time, that feature is also very, very useful to chase him or her around as you perform your music. Another function we want to visit is actually a function which many people are accustomed to, and it's known by the name or the phrase chord looping. Now on the SD9 Pro, how do you access that? How do you use that? This is going to be a good opportunity for us to break down the Launchpad, which is a rather complex feature because the Launchpad has a lot of functionality within it. And one of them is the chord looper. So I'm going to talk about that and show you how you can use your style and how you can have that chord looping, how you can use the chord looper in the KETRON. So first of all, you pick a style that we have right here, this example. And I'm going to go ahead and switch out the screen real quick so we can get back to the page so you can see exactly what I am working with, okay? So here we go. So that's my screen, and I have this style. Now, I want to bring that style into the Launchpad environment to be able to use the chord looping function. So while you have the style, or while the style is playing, you're going to press the Launchpad button over here on the top right-hand corner, okay? Let me take myself out of the screen for now so that you can focus on the full screen. And I don't think I need the pedals for now either. So there we go, okay? So as the style is playing, press the Launchpad, and I'm going to say yes to this message. Export in progress. So now I have the Launchpad in the style. Sorry, I have the style in the Launchpad environment. I can test it out as follows to make sure everything sounds good. Okay. So now I want to be able to do chord looping. I want to be able to record a chord progression within my Launchpad. And how do I do that? So while I'm in this environment, I'm going to touch Edit Pad, which brings me up to this screen. So now I can actually go into my song recording mode. So here I'm going to think about the song and ask myself, how many bars do I want to record? I can actually program a certain number of bars. I'm going to keep it at 8 for this demonstration purpose, okay? I'm also going to go in here, song mode. I'm going to touch the auto chord on because I want that function to be on when I come back to activate it. That means that when it's off, I can play the arranger manually. When it's on, it's going to play the progression that I'm about to key in or record into it, okay? Yeah. I'm going to now hit the record. So here we go. That's 8 bars right there, okay? If I hit start, that's my chord progression. So why do I do that? Because now I am free to play on the entire keyboard. Now that I have recorded the chord progression, my fingers are now free. So that means that I can now play along smoothly without having to worry about triggering the chords with my left hand as such. So you can see it's 8 bars and it looped around that progression, right? But guess what? That's not all. I have that progression in scene 1. I can record in scene 2 a different progression as such. So I have a slightly different progression in scene 2. I have a slightly different progression in chord 1. Let's see how this works out when I go back and forth between the scenes. So remember, in chord 1 we have a different progression, and I'm going to go into scene 2. And now I can play freely as such. Let's go to scene 2. what is interesting is I'm going back and forth. I just did only 2. I can do up to 5 different scenes, okay? So that's the chord looper, and I'm recording that. And while we are in the Launchpad, if you notice, I'm still working. I'm still going back and forth between scene 1 and scene 2. What if I want to automate that as well? Okay, so this is where you begin to build your blocks of your song. And to do that, I'm going to go into song mode, because now I can go into song mode and turn that on, okay? Hit edit. And what am I doing here? I can make a single pass. I'm going to add scene 1, and I want that progression. I want scene 1 to repeat itself, let's just say 8 times, okay? I'm going to add scene 2, and I want scene 2 to be played, let's just say 4 times. I'm going to go back again, and I'm going to add scene 1 again, and I want scene 1 to be played 8 times, and I want the song to come to an end at that part, okay? So in my song mode, I can say, start, stop at the end. I can say stop at the end, which means that after it's gone through playing scene 1 and scene 2 and scene 1 again, then it stops. So let's give it a try and see what happens. And now I can truly play the keyboard and just play my music while the chords are automatically played back in this particular arrangement. And I can save this as a Launchpad. Okay, so this is what it's going to sound like once we okay this message, and we now go back into our pad and play the song. Song mode is on, okay? Here we go. So, as you can see right there, I was able to have that progression do its own thing. And remember, the end user always has the right of way. So while that's happening, I can turn off the progression mode at any given time, or I can turn off the chord looper, which is right here at any given time, and take over the machine and start to play. So that's very, very intriguing. Those 2 functions are actually found in your Launchpad. Now, in this next example, we're going to be mixing up a lot of things, okay? A lot of us, including myself here, we always fall in this trap when we're doing demonstrations to play the arranger outright. In other words, get in and play everything and start the whole thing, hit start and start playing. When you think about a real band, as in how you would use this in a real band, you try to mimic some of the characteristics and features that exist in a real band. And one of those is that when most songs start, it's not all of you on stage that start to sing or to play at the same time, right? Different instruments come in at a given time. So that's also possible on the SD9. If you go into this section over here where you have the variation, you're going to notice that you have 4 different screens here, and that allows you to mute different arranger tracks, okay? That's similar to going into the view screen and having to mute the different parts. The good thing about this is it's a lot easier and it's one step. And let me just show you a little bit about this, and then we're going to go into the drum section as well, because we had some questions about being able to control the drums. KETRON uses 2 sets of drums, MIDI drums and live audio drums. And in this example, I'm going to also talk about how you can go in there and mute or play around with different elements of the drum set, such as the kick drum and the snare. But let's start with this illustration here of the sound. So I'm going to turn all that off and just start with a simple basic beat like this. So if you notice what I was doing, pretty much I made 4 variations sound like 12, right? Because within each variation, I was turning parts on and off, playing along with those parts. And normally, let me give you a little secret, right? When you're trying to play with the arranger, whenever you're playing a lead instrument, let's say you're playing a saxophone or you're playing a trumpet, you don't want those same instruments to exist within the track itself, right? So you want to mute those instruments. So if you notice when I'm playing a piano, and if there's a piano track within the arranger, I turn that off. And it makes the song more musically correct, if that phrase actually exists, right? So you don't, very rare occasions do you have 2 piano players or 2 horn players playing separate things. So you want to make the music as uncluttered as possible. So that's a little secret I was going to give you guys as I was performing that particular piece. Now let's go into the drums, right? If you notice in Arranger D, I had the drums really going, very, very busy. But what if I want to tone it down in real time? That's very simple. What I have to do is go into my screen over here and view, okay? And I'm going to go into the view screen and go into my drum mixer. And that gives me all my drum parameters right there, okay? So technically speaking, if I were to actually touch any of these, I can mute them in real time. So this screen actually allows me to go into the various elements of the drum set, and be able to either turn parts off, turn parts on, or even add reverb to the various tracks, okay? I can even go in here and I can even change my drum set, okay? Right now I have a swing set I'm using over there, but I can actually go in and actually modify that. You have over 70 drum sets built in within the Arranger keyboard, within the SD9, and that gives you a lot of flavor to be able to work with. Now, let me give you another example here real quick of a style, okay? I'm gonna pick a style. I'm gonna go into, let's say, country, and I'm gonna look for a nice rhythm. There we go. So I have this style right here. You can hear, okay, the different parts of the drum playing. Kick drums, and a slight little stick, and the percussion, right? I can go into my drum mixer, and I can mute just the kick, right? I can mute the percussion part as well, or I can bring the volume down, okay? If I go to variation B, again, all this is gonna change according to that variation. So for each of the variations, I can adjust and tweak the drum parts and have them function separately, as individually, right? So maybe in variation A, I want the kick drum to be at a volume of, let's say, 11. In variation B, I want the kick drum to be at a volume of, let's say, 15, for an example, right? So when I go back and forth between these two, I want to be able to hear a difference between the various kick drums. That's not all. If I go into my drum set, okay, if I go into my, right here, it's a room. If I touch that, it allows me to have access to all the different drum sets. So what we heard so far was the room drum set, right? I can change that into a rock kit, okay? Or a disco kit, all right? Or a standard kit. And it's happening in real time. Let's go back to the standard room drum kits. So you can have control over the various arranger parts in real time and produce your music in real time. Now, mind you, you're doing this while you're performing on stage. Imagine when you're in the studio where you have time and you can really go in there and tweak this to your heart's desire. Okay, so up to now we've been playing with styles, and we're going to go into a new venture. We're going to talk about stuff on the SD9 and hop on over to the Audia 5 as well. But before we do that, we're going to get into this interesting segment of this demonstration, which are the song styles. Now, many of you out there who are professionals know the limitations when it comes to styles, right? Either you're playing with a generic style, which allows you to play 1 or 2 or 3 different songs using the same rhythm, and it's much more open and free, or you're playing with a MIDI file, which is a backing track, which is exclusive to that particular song that you're performing, right? But with a song style, what we've done at KETRON is we've been able to give you the best of both worlds, right? So you have a style which is tailored around a particular song. Now, for those of you who grew up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, there was some good music that came out in those days, which had signature bass lines, signature guitar lines, signature horn lines, for an example. And such songs are not easy to reproduce with a generic style, like just say a ballad or like a big band. So you have to design a style around that particular song, which means that things like the introduction and the endings will be unique for that particular song. When you hear it, you know it's that particular tune. At KETRON, they have taken it a level higher than that. We have Arranger D, which is a riff where the chord progression of that song is also built into that particular variation, right? So let's do this demonstration here real quick and show you what we're talking about. Here's a style called Celebrate. style, on the top left-hand corner, you can actually see the count, and it tells you how much is left in measures, okay? 22 of 25, 23 of 5, and we're in the intro, and it's gonna go into arranger A real quick. Chords, the arranger has taken over, and the song progression for that particular song is now being played by the machine, which frees me up to play on the keyboard. So, as you can see, I was actually able to play the introduction of that tune, okay? So now I'm going to do something really interesting. Some of you are thinking it's a backing track. It's not necessarily true. This is a backing track to some degree that I have more control than your standard backing track. Again, earlier on in this demonstration, we spoke about control of the different elements of the style, right? I can apply those in this particular song style. And even though it's a song style, I can change it around a little bit and do something else. First and foremost, I can go into the style and go into where it says view, and I can look at my drum mixer, and I can again tweak and take out parts, have the drum play, mute, okay? Kick drum. This is how you make music. You allow the music to take control. You allow the music to control you. And this is what the KETRON SD9 does. It brings out the best in you. It brings out that monster, that musical monster that wants to come out and just play the instrument. Having all these controls at your fingertips makes a big difference. Okay, we're going to slide over now. We're going to turn over to the SD5, and I'm going to do that exact same style. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to show you some of the differences in stuff that you have on the Audia and what you can do on the Audia, which is unique to that particular instrument. So let's go over to the Audia, shall we? So on the Audia 5, I'm going to do the exact same style, okay? Celebrate. And I'm going to show you something interesting. Again, some of these song styles were originally created for and on the Audia series. So there's some unique things that we have that are exclusive to the Audia series, which we'll talk about as we progress with our demonstration. So here we go. Feel the punch. I'm going to explain to you later why it sounds that much more punchy on the Audia than it does on the SD9. into the AjamSonic sounds. That's the entire intro right there, as you can see on the screen. Still playing the intro before it goes into variation A. The riff. Here we go. So let me get into the demonstration or the explanation as to why we're hearing this much more on the Audia than on the SD. Like I said before, these styles initially were designed with the Audia and for the Audia. If you look at the screen, and let me take you to the screen real quick, you will notice that the styles also have different variations of them. So I was playing the Celebrate right there. The next part tells you the key of the song. And next to that, you see GR, which is a groove, okay? So that groove tells me that the style that we're working with, okay, this style is actually has a groove audio drum in it, not the MIDI drum, okay? So the version that's available on the SD series is the first one here, which you have the Celebrate with the key and R, which stands for riff. So if I play it right now, listen to this. This is the riff with this style version over here. That's the version that you have on the SD series, okay, with the actual MIDI drums. The groove version MIDI version, MIDI. So you can hear, if I take out the arrangement, listen to those drums. This is the MIDI style. This is the MIDI version of that style playing right here. This is the live drum version, which the Audia series has. So you can see Celebrate, it has two Celebrates. The first one right here, which is selected, it tells you that the style is Celebrate. A flat is the key in which the style was written, and R stands for the riff, which means variation D will have a riff, which is a chord progression of that particular song, okay? The next one you see Celebrate, you see the key, you see GR, which is a groove, which means that it's an audio groove, a live drum, which is being used in this version of the style. These are two different styles, but written for that particular song. And so in the Audia, the song styles have the groove, and that groove is what gives that extra punch to the style, okay, versus the MIDI version of that. Now, not only that, another interesting thing unique to the Audia is when you enter the riff, again, we had the riff styles for the SD5, and those went into the Audia, some of them. When you get into the riff mode, the first bar of the riff, the first measure of the riff, you can change the chord. So it allows you to key in what chord you want to play or what chord you're playing the riff in. Once that bar is complete, the rest of the other bars are locked, which means that you can play freestyle on the keyboard and they shall not have any chord changes. Let me demonstrate that to you. So right now, if I did this in the first bar, you see, I changed the chord in there. But now, no matter what I play, that chord cannot change, okay? But if I want to change the chord while I'm playing, I have to hit the fill in button and bring the chord in. Let go of the fill and the chord is locked. So in other words, the arranger ignores any chord that you play on the arrangement, on the keyboard, once the first bar is over, okay? So when we designed these styles, especially with the Audia in mind, we added some little intriguing things in there. Because sometimes an artist may want to key in a chord and change, and then lock it. In other words, have the riff or have the chorus of that song play in a different key from the original key if you wanted to. So there's that flexibility. The first measure allows you to key in whatever value you want to do, and then it locks after that, and you can now do freestyle. If you still want to do that, we allow you to do that with the fill in button. So if I press the fill, I can change it unlocks the arranger to accept any chord progression. So first bar is over, I cannot change anymore. The left hand is right now non-responsive. But if I want to change the chord for real, I can press the fill and change the chord, right? Now I'm in F. I want to do it in G, press the fill. Back to C. And once the measure is over, doesn't matter what I change, the chord does not change. Now that's the very useful function that's exclusive to the Audia series, what I just showed you over there. Now also, if I go into the MIDI version of that, okay, of that style, again, we spoke about the drums on the SD, being able to take out and bring back drum parts. The same can be done here, but we have a very nice tool here on the left-hand side, these 16 buttons that you have on the SD series right here, sorry, on the Audia series, right? These buttons are actually programmable. So if I go, I can make these to be my drum on and off, or if you see the top of the strip right there, it tells you what the default functions are for these buttons. Fill to end, re-intro, lyrics on, lead voice on and off, and unplugged. Those are the default settings for these buttons. But if I go into mode, and I'll take you to the screen real quick, I can either have these be as default, or I can have them act as drum on and off. This is the fast way for me to be able to access my different drum parts, okay? And if I do that, they can act as drum on and off. They can also act as GM page, okay? 16 different GM channels when you're playing a MIDI file. They can also act like your Arabic scale tuner, okay? So the Audia 5 does have an Arabic scale which can be assigned to these buttons as well, okay? Or I can make it assignable, just as I did with the foot switch pedal. And I can program these buttons for different tasks and different functions. I can also make this my playlist, so I can have a playlist assigned to the first one, another one assigned, within a playlist, I can have a song assigned to this button, another one assigned to that one, or I can go back to the factory, which is what is listed over here on the top of that. So I'm going to, for this demonstration, go to drum on and off, okay? And when I do that, I'm going to go back to that particular style, and I'm going to play it, and you're going to see how I can take out the kick drum, the snare drum, the hand claps, just by the push of a button. Let's play the style again in the Rift and listen to this. No more kick drum. Bring back the kick right there. So you see the buttons? I took out all the drum parts. Bring the snare and the hi-hat. Take it out. Bring the kick drum back in. Hand clap. Bring the snare back in. Take out the kick. Here we go, fill. So this is very interesting because at your fingertips, you can actually control different elements of that particular style, even though It is a song style. So you can check out the KETRON website. I'm going to leave a description below as to the name of that pen drive, which has those particular styles in question. So we just heard the one Celebrate. There are many, many styles on that particular stick I can demonstrate and go into. Okay, All Night Long, for an example, it's over there as well too. And Born to Be, we have a whole bunch of them, and they're all named after the particular styles from which they were derived from. So I'm going to go in and listen to another one that's popular, for an example. Don't Stop, okay, with the groove. Let's listen to the intro and the variation. Those are all built into the style, okay? And it again allows you to be able to really do a lot of things with these styles. Now, if you play some of the stuff that was written back in the days with Motown, I mean, you really get the feeling, the horns, the saxophone, the trumpet, and the guitars, and the intriguing parts of those particular songs, the bass lines, okay? So such styles that have a unique bass line, this is where the riff comes in, and having the song style, because the song is actually the real thing, the real song itself. It's like having a real bass player play behind you. That's your ending right there. I mean, just feel the style, feel the energy, and that's also thanks to the Audia, which is using its groove within those particular style parts. And again, like I said before, there's some sweet bells and whistles underneath the hood of the Audia series, which a lot of people have not yet discovered. If I go in, again, if you look at the screen real quick, you see that all these styles have an R at the end. That R means that there's a riff function, and that's what tells you that when you go to arrange your D, you're going to actually hear the some of the chord progressions of that particular song in that performance. Let's listen to September, for example. That's the MIDI version of the style which you have on the SD series. This is the audio version of that style on the Audia. Ending, here we go. Notice I am not playing intentionally, so I don't want to confuse people. I'm not playing because I want you to hear this coming from the machine itself, from the Audia itself, and also to understand or to better understand the riff function. Otherwise, people get confused. What part am I playing and what part is the keyboard doing? Right now, the keyboard is pretty much doing everything, and I'm just trying to demonstrate for you some of these styles, okay? Let me go to a very unique style that we did with the AjamSonic package. And this is a song that a lot of people that listen to songs of the 80s will definitely appreciate in this tune right here. If I can pick nice solemn style. Let me give you guys a couple of seconds to try and guess out what song was that. Let me look at the chat and see if anyone can guess it. No prizes, no awards. Just test your intellect for today. Guess that song. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds. The song we just performed right now. You guess something if you can guess it right, all right? Let's see. Let's see who's going to guess it right. Let's look at Facebook. Nobody yet. Let's get onto YouTube. Let's get onto YouTube and check it out. People are still scratching their heads. Yeah, that's a very popular tune in the 80s. No, Dorothy, you didn't get it right. That's not what it was. At least you got to try. Yes, let's see. Phil. No, that's not. Wasn't a Phil Collins tune. Nope. What's the title of that song that we just did right now? Let me do the drums again so you can have an idea. It's a very unique song, okay? It has a very nice drum, and you can hear that liveliness, which is thanks to the Audia 5 with the AjamSonic package. Yes, it's Slave to Love. Correct. Jessica got it correctly. Yep, Slave to Love. Yep. You must be someone that was born before the 80s then, I guess. So, yeah, this is one of the things that the KETRON brings out. It brings out the authenticity of music, right? And we are one of the few companies left that produce our sound modules. So in this case, you have the Audia 4. In the case of the SD9, you have the SD90. So if you're a guitar player, some of these features, especially the riff, are phenomenal because that means that you don't have to worry about changing chords. You just go into Arranger D, and then you play your song and you play your solo. The good thing about the Audia, like I said, or unique, is that when you go to Arranger D, the riff is locked. So the guitar player, the chords don't follow you all over the place. You can play anything you want, and the riff is going to play the dedicated song progression of the song at that time until you either press the fill button or you get out of the riff and go to Arranger A, B, or C. Then the arranger begins to track you if you're playing either on keyboard or the accordion or the guitar, okay? So. Okay, so that'll be all for today. I want to say thank you all for having tuned in. This was a very interesting tutorial slash info center slash demonstration of the KETRON products, both of the Audia 5 AjamSonic and the SD9 as well too. So we shall see you all again very, very soon, probably next week. Just check the channel out, and we're going to give you some more stuff coming up. Ciao. drawbars. Ciao.